All right, welcome to Real Men Iowa. We are here today, and Mike Damastis is not here. He had something going on. Steve Rowland is not here, so we have two very famous people in our studio today that will people will forget who Mike and Steve were. Chuck Hurley's here with the family leader. Say hi, Chuck.
Hi, good to be here, brother.
Man, you and actually, I mean, you have a ton of experience. You work with families. You work in the realm of the church, and there's a lot of things I think you'll have to add to this. Did I say yet? Our topic today is raising godly girls, and because of that, Chuck went ahead and brought his son, Tim.
Well, he's my test observer. You know, he was surrounded by 5 sisters.
That is awesome.
3 older and 2 younger. And so he'll be able to verify whether what I say is true or not.
That's true. Honestly, our children know more about us than we think we know about ourselves.
That's right.
So I'm pretty excited about this. I myself, we talked about raising godly boys a few weeks ago, and I didn't have any boys, right? So I just kind of sat back and listened, and I read a book once, that type of thing. I was a boy once, so I kind of remember that end of it. But this has been near and dear to my heart, raising godly girls, because I've raised 2 girls, and I mean there is nothing like that moment when you see your child for the first time. And Chuck, you can obviously share. You have more experience in this than I do,
Sure.
And you're like, I'm responsible for this life.
Yeah.
I mean, not just like to feed them and clothe them and stuff, but like this eternal soul. God has lent this soul, I'm a steward of this soul for just a few short years.
Right.
And wow.
Yeah, girls are, historically seen as needing or deserving more protection than boys. Boys, are more warrior-like, and you want to toughen them up and send them out like arrows and kill the enemy. Whereas girls, you're thinking, you want to protect them from the enemy. So, yeah, it's a different deal, different feel.
Yeah.
A lot of things are the same, but there are some differences.
So, raising godly girls, I got so much flooding through my mind right now. What would you say, Chuck? You've how many girls? You say 4? 5?
Well, Tim was surrounded by 5 girls.
Surrounded by 5. You have 5.
3 older and 2 younger, but he has another sister who's way, way older.
Okay.
And I don't think spent much time at all with her. So I have 6 daughters, and each one is different.
Right.
I have learned from mistakes, and hopefully my last 2 daughters are recipients of that. But I asked my firstborn daughter just an hour ago what it was that she thought made the most difference in her being a strong Christian now, as far as my being a good dad. And she said things like taking her on dates. We really had some memorable dates. We'd go out and we'd talk and just spend time together.
Excellent.
And then sort of right along with that was time spent just listening and doing things that, like my firstborn daughter is very athletic, so we would play a lot of games together. Ultimate Frisbee, soccer, basketball. So just the time, the attention, getting into their world. And then the third thing she said was complimenting her on her Christian character as much or more than complimenting her on her looks.
The inner beauty that Peter talks about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so those things she felt were very important in her growing up to love God. Of course, the modeling is the number one thing, according to Deuteronomy 6. These commands are to be on our hearts first, and then and only then can we really impress them on our children. So modeling Christ-like behavior for sons and daughters, but then with daughters, hanging out, spending time, getting into their world, complimenting them on their inner beauty. Those are some of the keys that I think are hard to do, but you got to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have to be very intentional about it, whether you're raising boys or girls, because they are different. We think differently.
Yep.
We have different goals. We have we have to take a different approach. where did I hear this? It might have been a marriage video series. I can't remember the guy's name, down in near Ozark, Joplin, Missouri. Anyway, talking about the where Scripture calls the wife the weaker vessel, and sometimes people get all offended. What do you mean weaker? And he explained what that meant. That it's like in every village there's the person who would make the typical normal plates and dining ware and cookware and stuff, and then there was always like they called it the weaker vessel. It was a weaker shop or whatever, and they made like the fine china.
China.
Yeah, it didn't mean it was weak, like it was breakable, as much as the meaning was you take special care of this because it is beautiful and wonderful and precious.
Yep.
And I thought, wow, that just changes the whole meaning, when you put it into their culture of what they're talking about. And you have daughters, and you want to raise them and protect them and treat them as valuable people. And it breaks your heart when you look around and see people not, treating their daughters in that way.
Oh my gosh! I tell you what grieves me is I do see from time to time girls on the streets. Okay. Not much supervision at home, and they're looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yep.
And I just grieve for that because all the stats show that prostitutes and strippers and all that almost always have a bad or non-existent relationship with their dad.
Right.
And so if dads can somehow involve themselves in their daughters' lives early and often, a lot of affection. The thing that I was going to say is number one, the thing that I like about raising daughters is just showing them genuine male affection without it being sexual, and they learn to realize they're precious, they're wanted.
Right.
They're cared for. Somebody really likes them for who they are, and they're not just after, something fleshy.
Right.
And so the girls who are raised with a very affectionate father tend to not fall into that, trap of promiscuity and whatnot. It's a huge problem. Yeah,
absolutely. I remember now I had no sisters growing up, right? So I had like no interaction with women. I had a sister who passed away before I was born, so I knew of a sister, but as a kid you just knew you had a sister. So I had nobody to interact with as a peer. Other than the girls in my class, but they just scared me, right? They had long hair and smelled funny and that kind of thing. They thought the same about me, but so, and then I had daughters, and so as a young man, I began researching. I thought, I don't know how to raise a daughter. I don't even really know how to raise a son, but I thought I better figure this out. And at that time, they're still going strong, but focus on the family. But they were on the radio every day, and it happened to be in a work situation where I had college in the morning, worked in the afternoon at a factory, and I could listen to the radio, have my little headphones, and I would listen to Focus on the Family every day.
Yep.
And I learned so much from these people who would come in and talk about things like that. And it just stuck with me, the importance of a positive touch.
Yes.
Especially when they get into like the adolescence time, like they're going to look somewhere, just the way they're wired, they're going to want some affection.
Yep.
And what better than to show them holy, godly affection? So a little touch on the shoulder, hey, how you doing? A hug, whatever.
Well, and let's be honest, it's awkward, especially when they're hitting puberty. It is awkward.
Yeah.
And the touch, may change, but I still know every time I see one of my daughters, I do give them a big hug, and they seem to genuinely like that and appreciate that. So it's awkward raising girls. They're girls. We're guys. It's awkward.
Oh, I was intimidated. I really was. Yeah. I thought, well, what if they don't like, the Batman, car I buy them? It's like, I told my wife, prior to, we didn't know, we purposely didn't know what our children were until they were born. And before we're going to the hospital, and I said, here's the deal. If we have a girl, the last thing we're going to do is get her like some foo-foo dress to come home in the hospital. We don't need any of that. And she's like, okay, whatever. And my wife's a pretty foo-foo. She's delicate, wonderful, beautiful woman. Yeah. And the second I hold my little girl in my hands, I'm like, oh, it's my daughter. I ran out that day and bought her the foo-fooest, pinkest, fluffiest. It was like 3 sizes too big, but man, she went home in that fluffy foo-foo dress, And I was like, yeah, this is my girl. And immediately, all boys are evil, right? Like, stay away from me. Or stay away from my daughter.
Yeah.
I was in Lexington last week with the International Conference on Missions, and we were having dinner with some friends, and across the table next to us, there was a young couple, and they had a little boy, like a 9-month-old boy, and the friends we're with have like a 9-month-old. No, they had a daughter, a daughter. Our friends had like a 9-month-old grandson, and they started talking, my friend and the people across, and he said, well, hey, if your daughter's looking for someone to date, I've got this 9-month-old. I got a picture right here, and you should have seen the look on that day. It was awesome. That dad was just like, you stay away from my daughter. He says she thinks she already has a boyfriend, and they've kissed. I'm like, oh no, that's at 9 months. So, and honestly, one of my big fears as a dad was how do we keep that little flame turned off until it's appropriate?
Well, and yeah, I'm glad you steered into that because, let's see, 5 out of my 6 daughters now have hit puberty. And so that is a scary time for a dad, and a fascinating and probably scary time for the daughter.
Right.
And, God's wired us to be attracted to the opposite sex for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a dad has a huge responsibility in screening bad guys out.
Yeah.
And so I started talking to all of my daughters before they hit puberty. Really quite a while before puberty, but especially just before puberty. And we said, look, the main rule is before a guy is going to date you or court you, they have to come meet your mom and me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to screen out the bad ones. And we did. With our oldest daughter, there were 2 or 3 creeps that came around, and we told them they weren't welcome. And girls, they turn pretty at age 15 or whatever, and so guys are interested in them, and a lot of guys for the wrong reasons.
Right.
So I think a dad is so critically important in scaring away the creeps. I don't know how better to say it.
And honestly, our young daughters at that age don't know. I mean,
Right.
They're not wired. They don't know what the creeps are looking for. And they're not thinking that.
Right.
That's just not on the radar. They're thinking, oh, someone likes me. They think I'm neat. They think I'm pretty.
Exactly.
And the guy's thinking a whole different thing. And yeah. So what kind of rules? Okay, you mentioned. Do you have any other rules for dating?
Yeah, we are old school in that we think dating is designed to find a mate and not just to hang out together and be an item and have these fluttery feelings. So we believe that dating is only appropriate when you're at a age and, more importantly, a maturity level,
Right.
where you're angling toward marriage. And so it's not neat, it's not tidy, it doesn't always work out, but our girls and sons all know that dating is designed for God's purpose of getting a couple together permanently versus just breaking each other's hearts a few times. Actually, I'm pretty harsh on modern dating, which is mostly leads to fornication, breakup, and it's better preparation for divorce than it is preparation for marriage. And
I think
so,
you're right. Yeah.
There's so much divorce because there's so much hooking up and
Right.
so much misunderstanding of what boy meets girl is really all about in God's eyes. In the world's eyes, it's a whole different ballgame, and it's disastrous.
Exactly.
There is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end, it leads to death.
Exactly. We in our family we have the same philosophy. We're very specific with our girls, saying dating has one purpose, and that is to find your future spouse, and it's not entertainment. It's you can have friends, be with groups, and that kind of stuff. You want them to interact, know how to interact with the opposite sex, but not in a dating relationship. So like before they were even born, we came up with an age. We just said when you're 16, we'll start entertaining the idea. So don't even put it on the radar before you're 16, because you already know the answer is no. And then that doesn't mean at 16 you're going to suddenly start dating everybody that walks in the room, but it just means then we'll have the conversation. And so they knew that growing up, and it was I was able to reinforce that, not in awkward, we wouldn't have like, remember, here's the 3 things you need to know growing up, once a week type conversation. I was able to reinforce it as they're sitting there watching television, and whoever their shows were, Tamara and Boy Meets World. Who's the I don't remember. Anyway, when the 2 youngsters start dating, I'd say, boy, that's interesting for them. That's great. But I don't know how I would say it. It sounded smoother at the time, but I would be able to remind them, yeah, when you're 16, maybe you can do that too, or something. So it was through their whole life they knew that. Yeah. So it wasn't like a reaction. Like the guy with chains and leather pants walks in and is like, well, oh, by the way, you can't date. It was like we already knew that going into it. And then that those years we were able to set up they were able to see me as a dad, because they're going to look for someone like me, which is a little bit scary too. Because that means I've got to be a good dad, and I've got to be a good husband, and I've got to be a good man around the home.
Yeah.
Because they're watching that, because that's exactly who they're going to marry. And
well, it's so true that modeling is probably the number one deal.
Yeah.
We can talk all we want. If we aren't living it, we just teach hypocrisy. And in fact, as you know, probably from Steve Rowland's conversations, one of the number one, I think he says the number one reason kids leave the faith is they see hypocrisy in their parents. Their parents say they're a Christian, but they don't live it. So yeah, if a daughter sees a jerk for a dad, she's not going to have a high view of marriage. And
she'll think that's what's normal.
And yeah,
and she'll find a jerk.
She'll probably end up with a jerk. So
yep.
So yeah, dads really gotta live it. And we all know we fail. So when we fail, the non-hypocritical thing to do is to admit you failed and ask for forgiveness, rather than be arrogant and think, well, nobody's perfect, so get over it.
Yeah.
So I do think dads need to apologize frequently when they fail.
Mm-hmm.
They need to continue to improve their own faith walk. And for me, I think if there's one takeaway from today's program, it'd be dads, show genuine love and affection. Show it. Don't be aloof. Don't be so workaholic that you just don't spend time with your kids.
Yeah, be engaged.
Be engaged and be there. Be emotionally there. And I will tell you, I'm saying that from bad experience. There's been times in my life when I was in the legislature and practice of the law was heavy, and I was first an elder in our church. I was too busy,
right?
And that stinks, and I regret it. So, dads need to modulate. They need to figure out that Scripture says, "Do not wear yourself out to get rich. Have the wisdom to show restraint." So men got to come home with some energy left to give to their kids. And I think that's the toughest challenge of manhood, frankly, is being a provider in a competitive world. It takes hard work.
Yeah.
You're busy, but you can't be so busy that you neglect your kids and your wife, of course. And I haven't done a great job of that at times. But yeah, dads, if there's one thing I could plead with you to do, it's try to find a better balance than being a workaholic or being.
We even celebrate that in the church.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and the American culture, busy and more stuff and go, and it's countercultural to live a balanced, engaged life with your family.
Absolutely.
Very countercultural.
Okay, so I found this article on raisinggodlychildren.org, and I usually don't do one this big because it's 50 rules for dads of daughters. Okay, so we're not going to read the whole thing.
Sure.
But we'll go through the list, and you guys tell me what you think. 50 rules for dads of daughters. Number 1, love her mom.
Yep.
We kind of covered that a little bit. I mean, yeah that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Always be there.
Mm-hmm.
You were just saying that. Save the day. Kind of be the hero once in a while.
Oh, okay.
What do you think, Tim? That's kind of a new thought for me. I don't know if
saving the day.
I really do that much.
Well, I was reading a book while in a relationship, and one of the things was girls, daughters, like to feel like they're the princess. They like to have
The
a
knight.
knight come in and sweep them off their feet. And guys like to go on adventures and to save. They like that adventurous mentality. And
Good.
if you do that, I think as a father you kind of model that that's what a guy's supposed to do. A guy is supposed to save the day, sweep you off your feet.
So give me an example. Like, I'm thinking of dragons in a movie, but what's a real life example in Pleasant Hill, Iowa, or Johnston, Iowa?
Oh wow.
How do you
That's a tough one.
It is. I mean that.
Say they're at a volleyball tournament and they forgot their knee pads. I can
Gotcha.
say this from not personal experience, but seeing my sisters, they
They
forgot their
forget.
knee
Yeah,
pads
yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
all the time, or their cleats. Bring them their
Okay.
knee pads or cleats to their game. Go out of your way to help them with something,
That's
or
good.
if they're struggling with a homework assignment.
I
just
think
take
even
the
like
time
if
to
they're
sit
in a
down.
if they feel they're in an unsafe situation, for whatever reason, maybe you're at a Burger King and like a crowd of rowdy people come in.
Mhm.
I've at times I have seen the look in my girl's eyes like you're going to do something if it gets out of hand, right?
Mhm.
Oh, good.
You know, it's like
Good
yeah,
example.
yeah. I'll put my life between us. Don't you worry.
Step
You know?
between the creep and
Yeah.
the daughter.
Yeah.
I can remember a negative incident of that. I was on Renee's capture the flag team, and it was down to just her and me. And she was watching the flag, and I was trying to get the flag from the other team, and we were going to lose anyway, but I decided to make a run for it. And so I went over there, and I got caught, and it left just her against like these 4 or 5 people on the other team. And she was traumatized by that. She was literally traumatized. That I was, I left her alone.
That you would leave her.
Yeah.
You
So
would
I-
abandon her in her time of need.
So that's good. That's really a good one that I wouldn't have thought of. Just,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see. That was number 3. Number 4. Savor every moment you have together.
Get off the cell phone.
Yeah.
Gosh.
You know, there were times my girls did swim team and track, and the thing with swim team, like a swim meet,
Mhm.
you know, it lasts whatever 3 hours long, and they're
Yeah.
in 3 events that are like 40 seconds each. You know,
Yeah.
and so there were times I'd sit there and I'd be playing a stupid game on my phone or something. You know, I never missed like their actual event, but there were times I would look up and they were looking at me like, "Hey, are you watching?" You know,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, "Put your phone away." And even though I'm not with them, they knew I was there. You know.
That's good.
Our oldest daughter, they both played basketball, but my oldest daughter was the point guard sometimes, and I'll never forget this. Like when they were really young, right? That she's dribbling down the court, and she would pause and look up at us in the stand, like, "I got the ball. You see this, right?" And I'd smile, like, "You got it. You know, we better go on with the game." You know.
That's cool.
But I love the. I don't know. There's something. Maybe I'm a sentimental guy. I guess this is what I've always done. I think I savor every moment. I just enjoy life. On the flip side too, like my mom had Alzheimer's, right? And there were times I became her caregiver, and I would multiple times a week stop by and see how she was doing. And she was just, when she passed away, she was still on her own, but she had just crossed over. There were some things happening that I thought, okay, it's time for more help. You know,
Yeah.
I was able to bring in some cleaners and different things to keep her, interacting with people. But I remember there were times like I would take her clothes home and wash them, and that's kind of a tedious, whatever. But it was just like, I just felt like, what a way to be able to honor my mom. I just enjoyed it. I made it so weird, but I so many times, even when they were really young, changing a diaper, I thought they need me right now. It's like I wasn't that guy who ran away from diapers. I was like, yeah, I'm there. And playing the games and being the horsey and whatever through the years, just enjoying it. So.
Couple of thoughts.
Yeah.
One is, thanks for allowing me on your show, because these are some things I needed reminders of. Because I look at my phone too much. That's the number one complaint my wife has. And I'm an information hound. That's kind of what I
Right.
do. I just love to learn and then to teach. But I need to savor the moment better. The second thought I had is, you've got this list, and we're going to run out of time to get to all 50 of them, but wouldn't it be cool if dads could have a list hanging in their bedroom or bathroom or whatever, and just look up and be reminded of this stuff once in a while.
Yeah.
I just think men. I'll speak for myself, but I've heard this at marriage seminars that men are fairly forgetful. They
Right.
need more reminders than their wives.
We have grand ideas, and then we go and forget all of them.
And then we forget them. So that list, man, if you could provide that list to listeners and me.
I'll put it on. I'll put a banner on our video here.
I think something that might even be more helpful with this list, 50 is a pretty daunting number.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you have 50 lining your mirror, your wife might start getting a little irritated with you. But if you go to your daughters and say or ask which one of these applies most, and hopefully you'll have a good enough relationship that they'll be honest with you.
There you
And
go.
then type those out, just those, I don't
Yeah.
know, 5 to 10. And those, it makes it much more reasonable for you to apply them to everyday life.
That's
And
good.
reminding, instead of this 50 that you're like, oh yeah, there's a list of 50, you can list off all 5 to 10.
And by asking your daughter, you're honoring her
Mm-hmm.
and finding out what speaks most to her and maybe where your biggest deficits are. So that's a brilliant
That is excellent.
strategy. Yeah.
Well, here's number 5. Pray for her regularly.
It's good.
I know if there's one thing I said, I can look at my life and say, okay, I did this really well, is we prayed for our girls. Still do, obviously. But I mean, there were 3 reoccurring prayers, and they were kind of very selfish. I mean, they were like extremely selfish. Sometimes I would think, is this all right? God is like, well, that's what I'm praying. Of course, I prayed about lots of things, but there were 3 things that prayed. I was the guy who would drop them off at school, right? And like, so that was my time as I'd see them walk off, and then I would drive for the next 5-10 minutes, whatever. I'd be just praying for that particular child, and so that way it created a habit. I mean, but every day I prayed for them to excel beyond their peers, and this is where it got a little selfish. But one was academically, that they would just get it, and in that prayer was that they would also be able to filter through good and evil, good intent and evil intent, because it was a public school setting. Not everyone's going to teach them to love Jesus, but we would anyway. That's another conversation. But that was part of my prayer. So there was an academics, and also they would just get it, and they both did. They just extremely excelled, and 2, they would excel socially. That they would just learn how to interact with this world, so that they would know how to be salt and light in this world, right? And have some friends, but mostly they just get that, and that they would excel in the things they were doing, like musically or athletically, and that wasn't even a pride thing, but just I don't know what it was. I just prayed that, and I just saw over and over again how it just happened, and I don't know,
But you develop the habit.
Yeah.
That's huge. I'm not very consistent. And,
Yeah.
I pray fervently, but not consistently.
See, and that for me, I think most guys are that way. The big ideas, and then we forget, So for me, I had to have that trigger. I've
good.
dropped them off. So for everybody has to have their own trigger,
Yep.
The other thing I thought I just seemed weak. The third one, somehow the athletics and stuff was involved with the other 2. Was I would pray for their future boyfriends and husband.
Good.
And that was before they were born, even, because I didn't know. But especially when I knew when they were, I've prayed for years that their future boyfriends / or husband would be in godly families, would be learning how to be a dad. All those things that I'm not going to recount everything.
That's
But
great. How old are your daughters?
one's 26, just got married in May to a fantastic guy.
Super.
One is 19 and has a guy she's actually been dating a while that they will get married. They just are waiting, to have a little life under their belt. So yeah, it's been so cool. Okay, and on that, I told you we had a 16-year age limit, right? That you had to be at least 16 to date. This guy actually came to me when they were 15 and asked me if he could date my daughter, and he was everything. I don't know. It was like we were okay breaking a rule, and we let them date.
Yeah.
And they were so crazy, even to this day, crazily mature. I'm saying that poorly, but I mean,
Excellent.
they
Yeah.
just were, and we. But through that, we were able to have lots of conversations, frank, honest, open conversations, and And it was even cool to hear, her say like he's never tried things. They both love God. That Jesus is first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how could I say no when I saw that's who this kid was, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I will break this rule for this guy.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's just a good theological lesson. Is legalism.
Yeah.
Can be constricting and wrong. Your purpose was right. You didn't want him to get started too early.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was going to say when you said that earlier, every kid's different. Some
Right.
kid might be 26 and they're not ready.
Yeah.
Or some kid might be 15 or 14 and be ready. I'm told that Mary and Joseph, or at least Mary, in the Bible was probably quite young,
Mm-hmm.
and that was typical then. Once you hit puberty, you got married rather than delay and fornicate. You went ahead and married and then did it God's way. So yeah, the more that marriage gets pushed further and further and further back, the more fornication there is. The stats are horrible.
Mm-hmm.
9% of Christians are, chaste
Wow.
until marriage. Well, the reason is God gives you a sex drive, and that can kick in at 15, and so to expect somebody to live till they're 29 when that sex drive is raging is kind of ludicrous. So because marriage has been pushed back, fornication has just exploded. And so yeah, but a little bit off the topic, but not too much, because our daughters really get their lives messed up if we and they don't do marriage, courtship, and dating well.
Yeah.
And dads have a huge role to play in that.
Well, we always told our girls, if the temptation is getting stronger, just get married.
Yeah, that's what Scripture says, 1 Corinthians 7.
We were married at 21. My wife was 19, and everybody thought we were already pregnant. We're like, no, it's because we want to try.
Yeah, exactly.
And 4 years later, we had our first. The girls don't like to hear that story, but you. Number 5, buy her a glove, teach her to throw a baseball. It's kind of get active with her.
Get active. For a while, our kids' favorite thing was ultimate frisbee, and we did. That's probably been our number one family fun tradition, is just going to the park. Now, all the kids got involved in organized sports as well, and that, frankly, to me has been more often a pain than a pleasure, because all the travel and time and practices.
Yeah.
But going to the park and having fun, that's
excellent.
That's great stuff.
I think there's something underlying that as well. You don't really think of tossing the ball with your daughter or the glove and the baseball.
Yeah.
But I think bringing her into that, showing her that you're willing to bring her into something you enjoy, possibly, could underlie that a little bit. But also, just giving her the opportunity to do things that she wouldn't normally do, and that you're willing to teach her those things. I think that also plays into that. Not only beyond the getting active part.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, it's they want our time.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know who we are and want us to know who they are, and it's the conversation you have with it and the fun and the memories and absolutely.
And dads do stretch their daughters. I've heard that the studies, again, that I love to read, that girls are much more confident if they have a dad.
Yeah.
Because dads throw them in the air and play sports and rough them up a little bit, whereas a mom can be overly protective.
That's true.
So yeah, that's cool.
Mom didn't play space shuttle with the girls like I did.
Right.
Okay, I did terrible at this. Number 7, she will fight with her mother. Choose sides wisely. Sometimes I didn't choose very wisely.
Expound on that a little bit
what's
for
the
my
impli-
sake at least.
Yeah,
Choose wisely as in
What's the implication?
sometimes side with her or always side with the mother?
My wife would say I mostly sided with my daughter. And mostly it's because as the guy on the outside looking at the conversation, I'm thinking, you're both kind of poking at each other. It's like one of us has to be the adults and quit poking. And so it was hard for me to defend at times, which is still that's beside the point. That's still my error. I still needed to be the dad and say, you know what, you poked back. If mom started it, you tried to finish it, and I can't let that happen. And there were too many times I was not a very good guy there. I was not. That's if there's one thing I could do over, it'd be that probably in our relationships.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I was drilled into my head way back, I think before we got married, but certainly early in the marriage, if not, that kids will try to divide parents against each other.
Uh-huh.
And so stay unified with your spouse, and if you disagree, do it outside of the hearing of the child. Work it out somewhere else, but stay unified. Otherwise, they'll see an opportunity for a wedge.
Yeah.
And they'll split you up. So I had that drilled, and I've tried to do that. But frankly, every once in a while I'll catch my wife, and I'm sure fairly often my wife catches me, misreading something with the child. And you really do need, at some time in that conflict, to assuage your child's right feelings. You need to go to the child and say, you really had a good point there. And I just want you to know, we're listening and we'll try to do better. Versus just saying, listen to your mom, shut up, sit down, and just denigrating a good point that the child might have.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
It is.
That's a real toughie.
Yeah. I tried to play neutral all the time, and then at some point they both would be like, well, no, wait, who's right? I'm like, oh.
Oh, you're killing me.
Yeah, that was terrible. So yeah, that's I'd like to have that one back. And not that I don't know that it destroyed anything, but
yeah.
number 8, go ahead and buy her those pearls. That's how old they are, I think.
I think that kind of plays a little bit into the save the day every once in a while thing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Treat them real special.
Treat them right. I mean,
Yeah.
like Becca said, taking them out on dates. I mean, it's just treating them just for no reason.
Yeah.
Like it.
That
a little bit the same as in when you're courting, like when you're courting your wife, you would just buy them roses randomly. It just shows them that you care about them and that you thought about them and you're willing to give something up, your time and your money, because they are more valuable than your money.
That's really good. Yeah.
Definitely.
I confess, Tim, I don't know if you're old enough to remember this. I confess, when we were first raising kids, we were extremely poor. And and my wife and I had a survival mentality. We've got to save. And so we weren't spendy at all. We were clear at the other extreme. And so, yeah, I'm thinking some of my older kids probably missed out on that buy the pearls thing.
Mm-hmm.
I will say once my father passed away and I inherited a little bit of money and we got completely out of debt, got the house paid for, I have been much freer. And Rachel, you can see it.
They have spent more money since then.
Rachel in particular likes to go out to eat at nice restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And 20 years ago, that just killed me. I just never would have done it.
Yeah.
But now Rachel and I can go out and really enjoy it. And so I can see that that's a really good one. But with 10 kids and
yeah, that makes it harder.
and being poor,
Yeah.
it's pretty tough to buy the pearls.
We had 2 and had struggles at times. But I tell you what, the times we did it, they treasure those.
Yeah.
We have remember one time my wife and oldest daughter went with a couple of friends and went to see like Michael Bublé or something concert, and my younger daughter, she didn't care, didn't know who's this Michael Bubble guy, And I said, here's the deal, they're gonna have some fun. We're gonna go out and have a nice date. And so we went to Sam and Gabe's, which is a really nice restaurant, and we went to the mall and we let her pick out a brand new dress. And so she got some new clothes. I think we did that first because she could wear the dress out to our date. And we got her nails done,
Wow.
which I don't think she'd ever had that happen before. And so we just did a number of things that then we came home and took pictures and like set up a little studio in our with curtains in the background thing. And she still loves those pictures. Even just she looks at herself and says, "Man, I look goofy," because she was young. But yeah, I still treasure those days. It's like that was a long time ago. So once in a while, you got to go above and do something crazy.
That's great. Make them feel special.
Yeah.
I've heard these father-daughter dances are really good at
Mhm.
that, where they get a formal dress and a corsage, and
Yeah.
and you treat them extra special, and that's a great memory. And frankly, I've failed at that. I'm not a spender. I'm not a formal kind of guy, and shopping is I think I'm the world's worst shopper. If you find one worse than me, tell me. And so that really is something that's cool. That if I'd have had this list 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, I might have done a better job. So I just thank God that this list exists and that some men can benefit from it.
Here's this one's free. Okay, we can all do this one. Of course, you look silly playing peekaboo. You should play anyway.
Absolutely. That's near the top of the list for me.
He didn't have a problem with that. He doesn't have a problem.
Just be silly and have some fun.
I just love being silly with the kids.
We tell you, when we get in the car, we're probably different than a lot of people. That's when the radio turns off and the phones turn off, and that's like our fun time. We sing and we joke and we look at things and we talk about life, and
that's great.
And because we get in the car a lot, and they probably think I don't ever listen to the radio. That's all I do when I'm alone. But that thing, I don't know why that made me think of this with the peekaboo, but it just made me think of that's when we interact.
Oh yeah,
a lot.
interact.
Yeah. We were the other night.
Cool.
Everybody jumped in my truck and I don't know, we were going somewhere. It doesn't even matter. But they were all like, "Oh, can we do this when it's Christmas?" And it was like there was too many people, like legally, like everybody didn't have a seatbelt, but they just loved it, so that's like a special time for us.
Yeah. Well, I think this ties in pretty much in the same way as the last one of "Go ahead, buy her the pearls." It's giving up something that you value. It reminds me of the story of David in the Old Testament when the Ark of the Covenant came back. Like, he was dancing around in his underwear. He didn't care that he looked ridiculous. He said, "I'll become even more undignified than this."
Exactly.
If I'm going to praise God. And it's giving up your pride, something that most people value more than anything in the world, sadly, and just showing her that she is more valuable than your dignity.
And the funny thing is, that's a false pride there, because who doesn't get it? Mm-hmm. A dad being goofy with his daughter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like they're gonna be, "Oh, that guy, man, I used to have respect for him." I mean,
it'll be the opposite.
Yeah.
It'll encourage and cheer other people. Yeah.
Man, we're kind of pigs, aren't we? Sometimes. Oh,
hey, is that David's story, dancing before the ark? Is that where that modern phrase came from? Dance as though no one is watching. I've seen that around on.
There's a song by Ben Rector called "Brand New," and I think it might be more a part of that.
Gotcha.
It's like, when I close my eyes and don't even care if anyone sees me dancing.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just, you're so happy that you just let go.
Yeah.
But
it's neat to see that. It is. I mean, we're so stilted or constricted by what we think other people think.
Mm-hmm.
That's too bad.
Okay, we'll do a couple more. Maybe we'll try to hit 15. There's no way we'll get to 50. Enjoy the wonder of bath time. Obviously, when they're young.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah. I mean,
It's a party, man.
Yeah.
It's a mess, but it's a party.
It's silly and goofy and water fights and all kinds of stuff. There'll come a day when she asks for a puppy. Don't overthink it. At least one time in her life, just say yes.
Good.
I had breakfast this morning, and my daughters were two of the people that stopped by, and I had found this list then, and they both I read that to them, and they're like, yes, yes. Like,
I feel like such a hypocrite. One of my absolute favorite things as a kid was having batches of puppies. We had 3 different batches of puppies. And they're so cute and cuddly and fun, and oh my gosh, I just cherish that time. But when I became an adult, I just thought, oh, they chew stuff up and they make messes, and so I feel like a total hypocrite on that. We've had a few pets,
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
but
had carpet.
not in the last 5 years.
No, we haven't. Since midnight died.
So I'm just
So
saying,
that's good
don't overthink
advice,
it.
man. Get the puppy. I
Don't
like
think
it.
about how it's gonna destroy every matching pair of socks you have.
I like it.
Here's a good one. Number 12. It's never too early to start teaching her about money. She will probably suck you dry as a teenager and on her wedding day.
My wife is like the ultimate money manager teacher.
Oh, nice.
And that's been good. But yeah, money's a big deal, and who's gonna teach kids most things?
Yeah.
You talked about dropping your daughter off at the public school, and we've homeschooled, and we recognize a parent's responsibility, and so it's hard raising a kid and knowing who to teach them what and stuff.
Yeah.
But man, if a parent can model it and then teach it, I think you give your kids such an advantage in life.
Definitely.
Get them all the basics.
That sets them up for life.
Set them up for life, man.
Yep. You know what? My dad taught me how to get loans, which is really weird because he was actually really good with money,
Yeah.
but he totally taught me to not be. Which, I mean, I'm not blaming him for anything. I'm just saying,
Huh.
you know, it's weird. I mean, I was like a young teenager, and I wanted to buy a camera. He goes, well, let's go to the credit union. And he co-signed a loan. And it was like every time I wanted something, well, let's get a loan. You need to get a loan.
Wow.
And yeah, so that hurt me in the first 10, 15 years of our marriage until we thought, wait a minute, this doesn't really work.
Yeah.
You know, then we had to climb out of that stuff.
Were you raised in a Christian home?
My mom was a modest believer, kind of.
Yeah.
Dad was more anti
Not so much.
than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the really neat thing about raising kids in a Christian home is the scriptures are so useful.
Yeah.
Like, owe no man any debt except the continuing debt to love one another.
Yeah.
The borrower's servant to the lender. All those scriptural principles about money. There's more about money than what, heaven and prayer combined
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
And so yeah, if you can get your kids into the scripture
Mm-hmm.
and live it yourself, you just have more than a leg up. You've got a whole life up.
Yeah. We've done things like as the kids got older, like for school clothes or whatever, we'd say, here's your budget. We'd give them the cash. I don't care if you get one pair of pants or 6 pairs of whatever.
Yeah.
And then they would make their choices. And sometimes they made really bad choices. And then they learned next
Then
time, okay, that was a bad choice.
Live with it, exactly.
Yeah. With the wedding, we did the same thing. My daughter just got married. Rather than nitpick about every decision to be made, we said, we've saved up this much money. This is yours.
Yep.
That includes everything. Your dress. You do whatever you want. We could give a rip what you do. I mean, as far as what you spend money on, we're not going to have those battles. Just so you know, here's your budget.
That's cool.
And then you can add whatever you want.
I think that's what my wife's handled all that. I think that's what we've done with our married daughters.
Boy, it was sure.
Two of our
There was no
daughters.
stress. I mean, it was a wonderful experience.
That's cool.
Now I've worked with tons of couples, getting married with
Man.
as a pastor, and I'm always like, oh man, you guys are just at each other's throats over like, do we have 6 flowers or 5 or whatever, and
It's crazy. The average wedding now is around $30,000. The average.
that is
now, of course, George
intense.
Clooney, $9 million. that skews the numbers a little.
Yeah.
But still, people spend more on their marriage than they do, often
Yeah.
getting ready to be married.
Yeah.
Like marriage counseling and stuff.
it's insane.
It is. And it puts them in debt.
I think a lot of that is reception costs.
Yeah.
So like their reception was pizza.
Yep.
It's like, hey, we can afford a pizza.
Everybody loves pizza.
And everybody had a
Everybody
good
loves
time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, okay. 13. Make pancakes in the shape of her age for breakfast on her birthday.
That's-
I think that might even be playing into the be silly, because
Yeah.
how many people are going to be able to form a pancake in the first perfect shape of their age?
7.
It'll just look like a weird blob.
That's
Maybe.
cool. That sounds like fun.
14. Buy her a pair of Chucks. As soon as she starts walking, she won't always want to wear matching shoes with her old man. Chucks. That must be. I'm not a fashion guy.
I think they're sandals. They're types of sandals.
sandals.
Okay.
Chucks. Yeah.
So,
They're very hipster, I think.
Oh, that you think I would know that then? Because if
You're
anyone's
the ultimate
hipster.
hipster, aren't you?
The ultimate
Dan?
hipster.
Number 15. We'll end with this one. Dance with her. Start when she's a little girl, or even when she's a baby. Don't wait until her wedding day.
Wow, that's cool.
Nice.
That's neat. That reminds me of the movie Courageous.
Oh yeah,
where
yeah.
the dad refused to dance with his little daughter.
Oh.
Remember that?
Yep.
Tim, have you seen Courageous?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think your brother Chuck's seen Courageous.
Oh, I'm sure he has.
He needs to see it.
Oh.
But anyway, yeah, wasn't that a poignant scene
Yep.
when Dad refused to dance and he really regretted it? So yeah, that's good. Good advice, man. I love that list. I want a copy of that.
I'll post that. Yeah, I'll post on the video, and I already forgot. I just closed up my thing. Where was that at? I'll post it. If someone's watching this, they'll be able to see it.
Or something
What was
like
that?
RaisingGodlyChildren.com.
Yeah, you're right. Right. Yep.
So I need to write that down because I'm so low tech. I mean, I do not know how to get on your blog.
Any
Your
last
vlog.
thoughts? Any words of wisdom?
Love them like crazy.
Yeah.
Let them know you love them.
Yeah.
Say you love them. One thing I would say is that for whatever reason, some kids, probably most kids, want to hear it. They want you to verbalize it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of men are just bumps on logs that won't say what they ought to say. And so I'd say affection and love. A lot of hugs and say you love them. Even when it embarrasses them. I've had daughters push me away, say, Dad, you say that too much. Well, but they know it.
Yeah.
And I really do have, I think, Tim, do I have a good relationship with at least all but the prison warden? I've got
I
one.
hope she doesn't hear this.
I've got one daughter. I've told
We're
her
going straight to jail.
she's going to be a prison warden someday. And she's just tougher than the rest of them, okay?
That's funny.
But yeah, a lot of affection. And even with her, she always says, every night before we go to bed, she always says, Dad, I love you. So it's kind of like, okay, I may have beat you up all day, but I know you love me and I love you too.
Nice.
So I'd say affection and say you love them. That
One thing that came into my head earlier while we were talking, and I didn't get a chance to put it in, we were talking about dads, like, if you're a jerk, she'll probably find someone who's a jerk in dating.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting how that works, because if the dad's a jerk, she'll probably look for someone and be very attracted to someone who is nice, but it's so much easier for that person to fake that niceness, because
Absolutely.
guys can be ruthless, and if they want something, they can fake it until they get it, until they get what they want. So I would say have nice be like the standard. If they're not nice, they're not going to get it.
Yeah.
They're not even going to have a shot at it. Don't train them to look for someone who is nice, like that's the pinnacle of a guy. But that should be the entry level place for someone. So I would say that definitely set an example for them in that. Train your sons to treat them nicely and be gentlemen.
Yeah.
And then they won't accept anything less.
There you go. And you teach them by modeling.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Yep.
see it. And it's a little bit funny. We're at the end of the show, and I just found your camera. I didn't write the number over here, so I kept thinking, I know I should have one of these.
Yeah.
That was just you. So there was your solo
There you
show.
go.
Here we go.
See.
All right, say. There you go in all your glory. I thought, why is there a blank here? Yeah, my thing I would say is to if you enter into parenting with some fear and trembling, then you're always going to want to try to improve. Then then you've got to try. I mean, not psych yourself out like, oh, I can't do it anyway, fear and trembling. But man, what a responsibility! It flies so fast. The whole raising your children thing. I mean, you're in college now, so so you're looking ahead. I mean, because I know it was a blink of an eye and I was there, right?
Yeah.
But think about how fast you got to this stage. I mean, you can think of, I was a kid, I was running, playing football, blah 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 blah, and all of a sudden, bam, you're in college. It's gonna be the same thing when you're like walking your daughter down the aisle, and I know you're not even married yet, right? I mean, so
No.
I'm just telling you, life is a vapor.
Yeah.
Scripture's true about that.
So true.
So invest in your children, and you be a godly person, be a godly man, and your children will learn what that is. So,
It's good.
all right,
Thanks for doing it.
let's
man.
wrap things up. You've been listening to Real Men Iowa Radio, and we will see you next week.